I walked into the reception hall feeling a little nervous but proud. Weddings always do that to me, especially when it's family. I adjusted my jacket, took a breath, and stepped up to the front desk where the staff was checking names. I expected a quick confirmation and a polite welcome. Instead, the woman typing on the tablet stopped moving. Her smile faded. She looked at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen again. She asked me to repeat my name. I did. Slowly. Clearly. I even spelled it. Her fingers hovered in the air like she didn't know what to do next. The man standing beside her leaned in and whispered something I couldn't hear. That's when she looked up again and said they needed a moment. Not in a rude way, but not warmly either. I stepped aside, thinking maybe there was a seating mix-up or a missing place card. That happens at weddings. Still, something felt off. Staff members started glancing at me when they thought I wasn't looking. One of them picked up a phone and walked a few steps away. Another quietly asked if I wanted water while I waited. No one told me what was wrong. As I stood there, I could hear laughter from inside the hall. Glasses clinking. Music playing. My sister's big day was already moving forward without me. That feeling in my chest tightened. I hadn't done anything wrong. I arrived on time. I dressed properly. I was her brother. I kept asking myself why this felt like I was somewhere I didn't belong. The event manager finally came over. He spoke softly, like he didn't want anyone else to hear. He asked me to stay right there for a moment while he checked something. His tone wasn't angry or accusing, just careful. That scared me more than if he had been direct. While waiting, I looked around at the decorations I recognized. I remembered conversations from months earlier. I remembered late-night calls, stress, planning details, and being told how important it all was. Standing there now, ignored and uncertain, those memories didn't feel warm anymore. They felt heavy. I tried to tell myself I was overthinking it. That there was a simple explanation. But my instincts kept warning me. People don't act like this over nothing. The staff wasn't confused in a casual way. They were confused in a serious way, like my presence changed something they thought they understood. I checked my phone, half expecting a message from my sister explaining everything. There was nothing. No missed calls. No texts. Just silence. That silence said more than words ever could. As the music grew louder inside the hall, I realized something important in that quiet moment by the desk. Whatever was happening, it wasn't an accident. Someone made a choice. And that choice had my name attached to it. Growing up, our family had clear roles, even if no one ever said them out loud. Lauren was the center of attention. She was the one everyone worried about, praised, and protected. If she made a mistake, it was explained away. If she needed something, someone stepped in right away. I was expected to understand, to be patient, to not make things harder. I was the dependable one. The one who stayed quiet and handled problems without being asked. If something broke, I fixed it. If money was tight, I found a way to help. No one thanked me much, but they also never worried about me. They assumed I would be fine because I always was. This pattern followed us into adulthood. Lauren could call anyone in the family and get support without questions. When I needed help, I usually figured it out myself. I didn't resent her for it back then. I told myself this was just how families worked. Someone had to be strong, and that someone was me. When Lauren announced her engagement to Mark Reynolds, the whole family celebrated. Everyone was excited, emotional, and full of opinions. Almost immediately, people started looking at me whenever practical things came up. Costs, planning, logistics. No one directly asked at first. They didn't need to. It was understood that I would step in if needed. Lauren came to me not long after. She sounded overwhelmed and stressed. She talked about how expensive weddings were and how much pressure she felt. I listened. I told her everything would be okay. I meant it. She didn't ask outright for help at first, but she kept hinting. I filled in the gaps without her having to say the words. I helped in ways that went beyond what most people saw. I handled problems quietly so she wouldn't have to worry. I paid for things to keep plans moving. I made sure deadlines were met when others fell behind. I did it because I thought that's what a good brother does. Mark thanked me once or twice, but mostly he stayed out of it. He trusted Lauren to handle things, and Lauren trusted that I would catch whatever slipped through. That was our unspoken agreement. Or at least, that's what I believed at the time. No one questioned my role. No one checked on me. The focus stayed on Lauren and her happiness. I didn't complain. I didn't keep score. I told myself it would all even out in the end. Looking back, I can see how invisible I made myself by always saying yes. I trained everyone to expect help without responsibility. I thought loyalty meant sacrifice. I didn't realize I was teaching them that my efforts didn't need to be respected, only used. A few months before the wedding, Lauren came to me in a panic. She said there was a problem with her credit and that it was only temporary. She explained that everything would be fixed soon, but the vendors wouldn't wait. Deadlines were coming up, and if she missed them, she could lose the venue and the date she wanted. She asked me to help her just this once. She said all I had to do was put my name on the paperwork so things could move forward. She promised it wouldn't stay that way. As soon as everything settled, she would transfer the contracts back into her name. She kept saying it was a short-term favor, nothing more. I hesitated for a moment. Mixing money and family never feels completely safe. But she looked scared, and she reminded me how important the day was to her. She said she couldn't do it without me. Hearing that made it hard to say no. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that trust still meant something between us. So I agreed. I met with the venue coordinator. I reviewed contracts I never planned to be responsible for. I signed my name where hers was supposed to be. I paid the deposits to lock everything in. Each payment felt heavy, but I told myself it was temporary, just like she said. After that, more things came up. Catering needed confirmation. The bar package required payment to secure the staff and supplies. Each time, the explanation was the same. Just a little longer. Just until things cleared up. She always sounded grateful, always promised it would be handled soon. I kept copies of everything without really thinking about why. It felt responsible, not suspicious. I wasn't preparing for a problem. I was just being careful. At least, that's what I told myself. As the months went on, the amounts added up. I noticed my name was on every major document tied to the reception. The venue. The food. The drinks. All of it traced back to me. Still, I didn't push. Every time I brought it up, Lauren reassured me. She said I was overthinking it. She said family doesn't keep score. I believed her because I wanted to. I believed her because questioning her felt like betrayal. I told myself that once the wedding was over, everything would be sorted out and forgotten. I didn't imagine that my name on those contracts would matter in a way I never expected. At the time, I thought I was helping my sister. I didn't realize I was stepping into a position that gave me responsibility without respect, and power without warning. As the wedding got closer, something between Lauren and me began to change. At first, it was small. She took longer to reply to messages. Calls went to voicemail more often. When she did answer, she sounded rushed, distracted, like she had somewhere else to be. I told myself she was just busy. Weddings are stressful, and everyone warned me this would happen. Still, the distance felt strange. We used to talk almost every day about details and plans. Suddenly, I was no longer part of those conversations. A few weeks before the wedding, I finally asked her where things stood. I didn't accuse her of anything. I just asked when we would take care of the paperwork and payments. I wanted to make sure everything was clear before the big day arrived. Her reaction caught me off guard. She didn't thank me for reminding her. She didn't explain or reassure me. She snapped. She said I was adding pressure when she was already overwhelmed. She told me to stop stressing her out and to trust her. The tone hurt more than the words. It was sharp and defensive, like I had done something wrong by asking. I tried to explain that I just needed clarity, but she cut me off. She said there would be time to talk about money later and that the wedding was the priority. After that conversation, I pulled back. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to be the reason her mood was ruined. I convinced myself that keeping the peace mattered more than pushing the issue. Family comes first, or so I believed. I stopped asking questions. I waited. Days turned into weeks. The silence grew. When I did hear from her, it was short and focused only on what she needed in the moment. There were no updates, no plans to settle things, no acknowledgement of the responsibility I was carrying. Deep down, I felt uneasy. Something wasn't right. But every time that thought came up, I pushed it away. I told myself that doubting my own sister was unfair. I told myself that love means giving people space, especially during important moments in their lives. So I stayed quiet. I kept telling myself it would all work out after the wedding. I chose patience over confrontation. I chose hope over reality. Looking back, that was the moment the betrayal truly began. Not with a loud argument or a clear lie, but with distance, silence, and the feeling that I was being slowly pushed out while still being used. The event manager finally asked me to follow him a few steps away from the desk. His voice dropped as if he didn't want anyone else to hear. He looked uncomfortable, like he was stuck in the middle of something he didn't agree with. He told me there was a problem with the guest list. I said that couldn't be right. I was immediate family. He nodded slowly and said that wasn't the issue. Then he told me something that didn't make sense at first. My name was the primary name on the reception contracts. Every major service was listed under me. Before I could respond, he added something that made my stomach drop. Next to my name, there was a note. It said I was not authorized to attend the event. He said staff were instructed to delay me if I arrived and to contact security if needed. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I honestly thought he might be mistaken. I asked him to check again. He turned the tablet toward me so I could see it myself. There it was, clear and undeniable. My name, my signature, and instructions that treated me like a problem. I asked who gave those instructions. He didn't say a name, but he didn't need to. He said they were given directly by the bride. He apologized quietly and said they were confused because it didn't match the contracts at all. Normally, the person whose name is on everything is the one with full access. I felt embarrassed standing there while people walked past us, laughing and celebrating. None of them knew what was happening just a few feet away. To them, this was a perfect night. To me, it felt like the ground had shifted under my feet. The manager said they delayed me because they didn't know what else to do. They were trying to avoid a scene. He kept saying this situation had never happened before. I could tell he was nervous, worried that any wrong move could cause trouble. As he spoke, everything started to make sense. The distance. The silence. The way I had been slowly pushed aside. This wasn't an accident or a misunderstanding. This was planned. Someone made sure I paid, signed, and stayed quiet, and then made sure I didn't belong. I thanked the manager for being honest. My voice sounded calm, but inside I was shaking. I realized that the confusion on the staff's faces wasn't about paperwork. It was about seeing my name everywhere and being told I wasn't welcome at the same time. Standing there, I understood that I wasn't just forgotten. I was deliberately erased. I stayed near the hallway outside the main room, trying to steady myself. I didn't want to walk in uninvited, and I didn't want to leave without understanding everything. My head was full, and my heart felt heavy. I told myself to wait a few minutes and think. That's when I heard her voice. Lauren was standing a short distance away with Mark. They didn't see me. They were focused on each other, speaking in low but tense voices. I wasn't trying to listen, but my name came up, and I froze. She sounded angry, not stressed. She said I was obsessed and that I always wanted control. She laughed in a sharp way and said I was jealous of her happiness. Mark didn't say much at first. He just listened. Lauren went on. She said letting me be there would have ruined everything. She said cutting me out was the only way to protect her day. Hearing that felt like a punch. This wasn't about confusion or fear. This was how she saw me. Mark asked her if that was really fair. She replied that I wouldn't have helped if I didn't want something in return. She said I made her uncomfortable and that it was better this way. She said once the wedding was over, it wouldn't matter anymore. I stood there, unable to move. Every word stripped away something I thought we had. All the late nights, all the support, all the trust one believed in were reduced to ugly labels. In her version, I wasn't a brother. I was a threat. What hurt most wasn't the insults. It was how easily she dismissed me. Like I was a problem to be managed, not a person with feelings. She spoke about me like I wasn't family at all. In that moment, everything became clear. She took what she needed from me when it suited her. My help. My money. My name. And once she had it all secured, she pushed me out of the picture without a second thought. I realized she didn't forget about me. She planned around me. She made sure I was useful until I wasn't, and then she erased me as if I never mattered. I quietly stepped back before they could see me. I didn't want a confrontation. I didn't want tears or shouting. I needed time to let the truth settle in. As I stood there alone, the noise of the celebration felt distant. The joy inside that room had nothing to do with me. What I lost in that hallway wasn't just my place at a wedding. I lost the belief that loyalty was shared. I finally understood that I had been valued only for what I could give, not for who I was. I stepped outside the building and let the cool air hit my face. I needed distance from the noise, from the lights, from everything inside. My hands were steady, even though my chest felt tight. I wasn't angry in the way people expect. I felt clear. I took out my phone and opened the folder where I kept the documents. I hadn't looked at them closely in weeks. One by one, I scrolled through the contracts. The venue agreement. The catering confirmation. The bar service details. My name was on all of them. I read slowly this time. Not as a helper or a brother, but as the person legally responsible. The terms were clear. Authorization. Payment control. Final approval. None of it had been transferred. Nothing had changed hands yet. On paper, the reception was still mine to manage. That realization didn't bring satisfaction. It brought calm. I finally understood why the staff looked so unsure. They weren't dealing with a guest problem. They were dealing with a legal conflict they didn't expect. I checked the time. The ceremony was over, but the reception hadn't officially begun. Services were scheduled to start soon, but nothing was locked in motion yet. There was still a window where decisions could be made, legally and quietly. I stood there for a few minutes, letting that sink in. I wasn't thinking about revenge. I wasn't planning a scene. I was thinking about fairness. About how far things had gone without anyone considering what was right. All this time, I believed I had no choice but to accept what was happening. Standing outside, reading those documents, I realized that wasn't true. I wasn't powerless. I had simply been treated as if I were. I looked back at the entrance of the venue. Guests were arriving, smiling, unaware of the tension just beyond the doors. Everything looked normal from the outside. That contrast made the situation feel even more unreal. I took a deep breath and locked my phone. Whatever I decided next needed to be deliberate. Not emotional. Not reactive. I owed that much to myself. For the first time that day, I didn't feel small or confused. I felt steady. I understood where I stood, both legally and personally. The night wasn't over yet, and neither was my role in it. That moment outside wasn't about taking control. It was about recognizing that I already had it. And once I understood that, everything else became very simple. I went back inside and asked to speak with the venue manager again. I kept my voice low and my expression neutral. I didn't want attention, and I didn't want questions from anyone else. He led me to a quiet corner away from the guests. I told him I needed to make a change. He looked tense at first, probably expecting anger or demands. Instead, I explained calmly that I was withdrawing authorization for the open bar and the premium dinner service. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain my reasons. I only stated what I was allowed to do under the contract. He asked if I was sure. I said yes. I told him to switch everything to the most basic package available, effective immediately. No upgrades. No extras. Just the standard service that required the least approval. I made it clear I wasn't canceling the reception. I wasn't trying to shut anything down. I just wasn't paying for luxury I no longer agreed to provide. The manager nodded slowly and asked me to confirm in writing. I signed on his tablet. He thanked me for being clear and professional. I could see relief on his face. This was something he could handle without causing a scene. Within minutes, the staff began adjusting quietly. Bartenders removed premium bottles and replaced them with standard options. The kitchen revised the dinner plan to a simpler menu. Everything happened behind the scenes, without announcements or drama. Guests didn't notice right away. People were still talking, laughing, and taking photos. From the outside, the reception looked the same. That was important to me. I didn't want embarrassment or chaos. I wanted consequences that matched the choices that were made. I stayed out of sight as the changes took effect. I didn't watch Lauren. I didn't look for Mark. This wasn't about seeing their reactions. It was about drawing a line that should have been respected long before this night. What I felt wasn't satisfaction. It was balance. For months, I had been carrying responsibility without voice or respect. Now, for the first time, my role was being acknowledged in the only way it seemed to matter. The manager came back a short while later and said everything was adjusted. He asked if there was anything else I needed. I told him no. That was enough. As I stepped away, I felt lighter. Not because I took something away, but because I stopped giving what was never valued. I didn't create a problem. I simply stopped protecting everyone else from the results of their decisions. The night continued on, just without the extras that were never owed. And for me, that was the quiet moment where things finally shifted from being taken advantage of to being fair. It didn't take long for people to notice that something was different. Guests walked up to the bar and looked confused when their usual drinks weren't available. A few laughed it off at first, thinking it was a mistake. Others started asking questions. The mood in the room shifted, slowly but clearly. At the dinner tables, the change became even more obvious. Plates were served, and whispers spread from table to table. No one caused a scene, but disappointment showed on faces. This wasn't what people expected from a reception that had been talked about for months. I stayed near the edge of the room, watching quietly. I didn't feel proud or excited. I felt tired. This wasn't a victory. It was the result of a situation that should never have reached this point. Lauren noticed the tension almost immediately. I saw her looking around, speaking quickly to staff, her smile forced and breaking. Panic replaced confidence. When she finally spotted me, her expression changed completely. She walked toward me fast, tears already forming. She demanded to know what I had done. She said I was trying to ruin her wedding. She accused me of being cruel and selfish. Her voice shook, and people nearby started paying attention. For the first time that night, I spoke honestly to her. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I told her this wasn't revenge. I told her I wasn't trying to hurt her or embarrass her. I said this was accountability. I reminded her that she made her decisions weeks ago. She chose to shut me out. She chose to speak badly about me. She chose to treat me like I didn't matter while still using my name and resources. What was happening now didn't start tonight. It started with her choices. She cried harder and said family shouldn't do this to each other. I told her family also shouldn't lie, exclude, and erase each other. That responsibility goes both ways. Mark stood nearby, silent and uncomfortable. He didn't step in. He didn't defend her. That silence said more than any argument could have. Lauren told me I betrayed her. I looked at her and realized she truly believed that. In her mind, I was wrong for stopping something she felt entitled to. That realization hurt more than her words. I told her I wasn't taking anything from her. I was simply no longer giving more than I agreed to. I said I hoped she would still enjoy her night. Then I stepped away. As I walked out of the room, the noise behind me felt distant. The reception continued, but the illusion was gone. What fell apart wasn't the party. It was the story she told herself about what she could take without consequence. After everything, I realized staying longer wouldn't help me or anyone else. I quietly gathered my things and walked toward the exit. I didn't say goodbye to anyone, not to Lauren, not to Mark, not even to the staff. The celebration continued behind me, but for me, it was over. Outside, the cool air felt freeing. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel the need to explain, justify, or argue. I had already done what was necessary. I had set boundaries. I had ensured that my responsibility was recognized and that I wouldn't be taken advantage of any longer. Later, I reviewed the payments I had made. I covered exactly what I had agreed to months earlier. Nothing more. Every contract I had signed, every deposit I had given, I checked carefully. I made sure that the money I had provided was settled fairly, and nothing else could be held against me. I closed those accounts, cut the remaining ties, and made my exit from the financial side of the wedding completely clean. This wasn't about punishment. It wasn't about revenge. It was about honesty, fairness, and self-respect. For years, I had let my loyalty and trust be used without consideration. Tonight, I changed that. I thought about Lauren as I walked away. I realized I didn't lose her as a sister that night. I lost the illusion I had of her. The idea that she would value me for who I was, not just for what I could provide. That idea had been gone for a while, tonight only confirmed it. I felt lighter than I had in years. Without the weight of unacknowledged responsibility, without the need to stay silent for the sake of appearances, I finally felt free. I had chosen myself, and it felt necessary and right. I didn't dwell on anger or sadness. I let myself think about the future. About what I could do, who I could trust, and how I would protect my peace from now on. For the first time, I felt the strength that comes from setting limits and refusing to let others' choices dictate my life. Walking away was quiet, but it was powerful. I didn't need applause, confrontation, or approval. I had already acted with integrity, even if no one else recognized it. That knowledge was enough. As I got into my car and drove away, I felt a sense of closure. The reception continued, the celebration went on, but I was no longer part of it, and I was okay. For the first time, I prioritized my own dignity and peace over keeping up appearances. For the first time, I felt like I was finally standing on my own, not as someone used by others, but as someone who knew their worth and refused to compromise it.